An unusual change in the pattern is about to seriously mess with your weekend forecast. And if you're tired of the severe weather, well, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but that light might be from an oncoming train. We're going to take a look at all of that, plus we'll test your weather IQ and take a look at the long range. We'll have all of that and much more as a brand new 1 May episode of Cold Rain's Weather World starts right now. Hey everyone, welcome into Cold Rain's Weather World, the fastest growing new weather show on the internet. We've got all the weather right here at Cold Rain's Weather World, and I want to thank you for joining me this morning or this afternoon or whenever you're watching this video. If you're returning, thank you for coming back and spending time with me. And if you're brand new to the channel, then welcome in. We've got a lot that we cover here on Cold Rain's Weather World. We take a look at today's forecast, the forecast for the upcoming work week or the weekend, and we're going to be looking at the weekend today, including more severe weather and a pattern change or reshuffle or reboot, whatever term you want to throw around it. We're going to look at that today and see how that's going to affect the weekend forecast and the upcoming pattern beyond. So we've got a lot to get into this morning. It's a sad day for Cold Rain. The Lakers lost last night, but I guess that means that we won't have to stay up late and watch them anymore and watch a bunch of futility. They are out of the playoffs, and I guess we can move on. So one of the things that I always promise here at Cold Rain's Weather World is to leave you smarter than when you came into the show. And so one of the ways we do that is by testing your weather IQ every day. And if you don't know the answer to this, you'll know it and learn something. So today's weather IQ question, let's get right into it. Today's weather IQ question is about the sun. Yesterday's was about the sun too. We're on a sun kick. But the question today is fairly straightforward. What is the process that powers the sun? Is it nuclear fission, matter-antimatter reactions, nuclear fusion, or quantum singularity? We're going to talk about that at the end of the show. So if you don't know the answer, just stick around and you'll find out. If you know it, type it in the comment section as always, but we'll get right back to it here shortly. Folks, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. We've got over 430 subscribers now. This channel is growing rapidly and really want to thank you so much. Couldn't do it without you, and I'm humbled that you come here every day and spend time with me and are subscribing to the channel. So thank you for doing that. Please, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Hit the notification button so you get notified when I put out these videos. I do these about every day. And like it if you like the content, just hit the little thumbs up icon. All of that tells YouTube that, hey, this is something worth watching, and I hope it is. If it's not, then let me know what you'd like to see, and I'm happy to evolve the show in whatever direction makes sense. I've got some ideas, and we'll continue to evolve it as we go along. But anyway, leave a comment in the comment section. If there's anything I can pray over for you, please let me know. I'm happy to do that. Any suggestions about the show, questions about weather, happy to take any of that under advisement and answer any of those. I'll answer each comment. So anyway, thanks for joining, folks. And looking back at yesterday, we had a few severe reports, not as many as the day before, 136 total reports, 4 tornadoes. These were small tornadoes. They didn't do a lot of damage, but we had a lot of hail and wind reports as well. It's an active, volatile pattern that we've been in and for the past few days, and it's yielded severe weather. The biggest hailstone I found was down in Texas at I can't remember the name of the city, but they had 3-inch size hail. That's about baseball size, so that would damage some property and people if you're out in it, livestock and all of that fairly efficiently. So there's your storm reports from yesterday. Looking at this morning, we're looking at the vapor loop. And I wanted to show the vapor this morning. We've been showing the satellite with the lightning display every day, but I want to show the vapor just to pick up a couple of features here. You can see these kind of show up really well. There's a trough in the southern branch here and another trough swinging in up here in the northern plains out of the Rocky Mountains. These are going to be impactful over the next couple of days. We've had several troughs and low pressures form, shoot to the lakes, drag cold fronts through, and spark severe weather. This is going to be the last in the series of those for at least a couple of few days anyway. And so we're going to see reshuffling of the pattern. We're going to get into that in a minute. This trough up here is going to play a prominent role in the weekend weather as we head forward. So you can see that cloud cover extending all the way back in here in the Intermountain West from California up into the plains, more cloud cover associated with some rain and thunderstorm activity up here into the lakes and down in Louisiana. So we're going to be looking at those areas here. And as a matter of fact, we'll show you the radar. You can see that big area of rain extending from the upper portion of Illinois into Wisconsin, all the way into Michigan. A lot of rain around the low pressure that's up here, spinning back around in Minnesota and North Dakota, South Dakota, and then some, with that trough coming in, we've got some showers up there in Montana, and then cluster of showers and storms down here, moving out of Louisiana into Mississippi, into Alabama. So another little cluster of showers just west of my neck of the woods, moving into southern North Carolina. That will be very, very slow to move forward today. But that's your radar this morning, folks. Looking at the hazards map, not a lot out here today. Look at this. Just some flood warnings, some river flood warnings. We've had all that rain where we had flood watches and multiple inches of rain in Oklahoma. It has been a very wet Oklahoma. As a matter of fact, I think I saw it's been the wettest Oklahoma since, gosh, I have to go back and find that. I'll find that map and bring it in tomorrow. And by the way, I meant to show you a video clip yesterday related to the green flash that I didn't show you. I'm going to show you that at the end of the video here, by the way, so stick around for that. But we've got some river flood warnings out here, some fog advisories. Those will burn off, but pretty quiet map other than that. Surface map today looks a little convoluted, but here's what you need to take away. There's a frontal zone that's been draped along really here in the is above the southeast. This would be lower mid-Atlantic, all the way back into this low pressure area in Illinois. This will continue to strengthen today, move into the Great Lakes, and drag this cold front through. The southerly flow out ahead of this will push this warm front to the north today. So you're going to be looking at this warm front advancing north over the next day or so. And southerly flow out ahead of this cold front is bringing in moisture out of the Gulf of Cold Rain. That's all going to interact together with this frontal zone and some other boundaries that have been laid down by the previous night's convection that all acts as focal points for showers and thunderstorms. So as this area, this cluster of storms moves out of Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi and all of these areas down here, will the atmosphere recover in terms of instability to spark showers and thunderstorms in this area? That is to be seen, but it's likely that at least some instability will redevelop through the course of the afternoon here. And so we're going to see showers and thunderstorms here in this area. We're going to see showers and thunderstorms back here associated with another little wave and trough that's kicking out of the southwest and moving toward the east. That will enhance rainfall again over Oklahoma. You guys could see another couple of inches of rain with that as we get a little cluster of showers and thunderstorms moving in through the day. And then up here where this low is moving, there's some shear in the upper atmosphere. This is the best shear. The instability is a little bit weaker in this area, but still you're going to have enough instability and enough shear. That's why there's a risk of severe weather here, and then some a slight risk of excessive rainfall. So that's your surface map for today. We're not going to belabor that down the road when we look at our severe weather update. We talked a lot about it now, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of that. But looking at how things are going to shake out over the course of the day, putting this into motion, you can see that low pressure advancing toward the lakes, dragging that boundary, that cold frontal boundary along behind it. Showers and thunderstorms will break out across the Tennessee Valley and the lower and mid-Mississippi River Valley. And as we get on into later today, you can see additional showers and thunderstorms breaking out in the Ohio Valley and Eastern Lakes area. And then look what happens in Oklahoma as we get into the night. This little trough is going to kick off a cluster of showers and storms. Those could organize. And of course, we could see some supercell activity again with organization later on as we go through the evening to produce rain and plenty of it at that, and potentially an organized line of convection as we go through tonight into Friday as well. So we've been seeing that a couple of days on the model. So that's what's going on today. Taking a look here at the temperature forecast, I'm going to try to find a way to make these so I don't have to download the images. I've got to make that image bigger. But anyway, today we're looking at a large area of warm weather from really the west coast between the mountain ranges down here to the desert southwest and across really the southeastern quadrant of the country. We're going to see 80s, a little chillier up here in northern Maine, northern Great Lakes, across the northern tier behind some of these troughs and systems that are working in. It's dragging a little bit of cooler air out of Canada. And then, of course, tonight, that's where we're going to see the lowest temperatures, 30s, 40s, 50s from a boundary. You can see kind of where the boundary is from the lakes all the way back into El Paso, Texas. And so it's going to be chilly north of that, 40s essentially, maybe some below freezing temperatures in the Rocky Mountains. But everybody else is going to be warm and muggy with the exception of Maine. So that is your daily forecast, folks. Now we're going to turn our attention to what's going on later in terms of the severe weather threat. All right, so regarding our severe weather threat, what's kicking that off really? And we talked a little bit about that before, but we've got three features here I want to draw your attention to in our mid-level map. This is about 3.5 miles up off the surface, 18,000 feet, in case you wanted to know, roughly. So we've got a trough here in the lower plains near the mid-Mississippi Valley. We've got another trough up here, and we're going to watch what happens with that later, and another trough back here. So all of these are progressing to the east. Out ahead of these, you get lift. It also cools the atmosphere with height, so that helps create instability. And so out ahead of these troughs generally are where you find instability, lift to create precipitation, and wind shear with height. And so you're noticing that there's going to be kind of a void of wind shear down here in this area, and essentially an enhancement of wind shear up here in this area. And that's what's going to drive our severe weather threat. So if we put this forward over the next, this is this morning, we put this over the next few hours, look at this trough, it kind of flattens out. That's called shearing. It just weakens a little bit. So a strengthening trough would enhance severe weather threat. A shearing trough diminishes severe weather threats. And then this other trough progresses in up here in the northern stream. The southern stream trough is progressing in over the course of the evening hours into tonight. Now look at this thing. It's really sharpening up. And we're going to look at this again in a minute. And then this other one's progressing east in the southern stream. And this one's kind of washed out up here. So that's kind of what's going on in the mid-levels. That all drives what happens at the surface. And if we look at the surface in terms of our instability parameter, lots of instability down here over Texas, Louisiana, not as much up here. There's still plenty. This is, plenty. If you've got good wind shear, you can still get good thunderstorms out of this. But look what happens through that course of the afternoon. Little instability builds up here in our severe weather zone in the Ohio Valley. Plenty of instability building from Texas and Oklahoma into the western part of the South. And then as we go into the overnight hours tonight, that southerly flow out ahead of this advancing trough is going to continue to fuel moisture and instability out here. So we're going to see that persist through the evening hours. We could see some of this activity, as we saw on the map earlier, progress through Oklahoma and stay together as we go through the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. So that's what our instability profile, much less back here. We've got kind of a funky area. When we look at our severe weather threat today, we've got this kind of a weird, funky, slight risk area. We've got better shear up here, less instability, more instability, and less shear down here. And then in this little zone here, from say, I don't know, halfway through Mississippi up into the Tennessee Valley, that's where the confidence probably is least or less in terms of what we're going to expect, just because we kind of don't have really the best overlapping of shear and instability, but still there's enough instability to create showers and thunderstorms anywhere within that area, and one or two of those could get severe. Looking at tornado threat, not a great big threat, but there's still a potential for a tornado or two. Wind damage, again, 15%, that's kind of the primary threat, with potentially significant wind as that organization takes place overnight with that cluster we saw in Oklahoma. Same with hail, so significant hail, potentially 2 inches in diameter or more. So that is the severe weather threat for today. We'll look at what's coming up here in just a minute. So during the middle of these shows, I usually like to interject a fun fact or some kind of this day in weather history, but as is often the case, I couldn't really find any notable historical weather event that happened this day back in time. I've seen a few random tornadoes or a couple of river flood events that seem sort of unremarkable. But I did find a couple of interesting non-weather events that happened today in history, and one of those was the opening of a prominent building in New York back in 1931. Do you know what that was? It was the Empire State Building. It was opened on May the 1st, 1931, And at the time, it was the tallest building in the world, standing at just over 1,450 feet, and it still stands today. And also on May the 1st in 1920, keeping the New York theme going along, Babe Ruth hit his first ever home run as a member of the New York Yankees. Shot traveled an estimated 360 feet. The game was played at the Polo Grounds against the Boston Red Sox of all teams. The Yanks, of course, were victorious, besting the Sox 6-0. So that's what happened today in history. All right, so we're going to get into the back half of the show here, and we're going to look at the severe probabilities over the next couple of days, and then talk about that pattern change that's going to be kind of weird and unusual. And starting here for tomorrow, looking at a marginal risk of severe weather from the eastern lakes back into southwest Texas. That trough is going to kick out and enhance the shear here, so we could see a few supercells, some organized line segments, clusters, things like that. Maybe an MCS coming through here and organizing the threat. Doesn't look like a big tornado threat at all. Wind threat looks to be, there's your tornado threat. Wind threat looks to be about 5%, but hail looks to be the primary threat for tomorrow. And then as we advance that on into Saturday, a marginal threat along the East Coast, not a lot of wind shear here, some marginal instability possible. So, we're going to see a few pulse storms, maybe some clusters, a couple of line segments that could produce some marginal severe weather. Again, not a big chance at this time. If we start to see a little additional wind shear more than we thought, then we could see an enhancement here. But just be on guard as we get into Saturday afternoon. That cold front will be just west of the area, and we'll be able to sort of make use of some of the moisture there. But check this out. Now, we're going to look back at what I showed you before. Pay attention. This morning, we've got this trough here in the northern plains. That's what I want you to focus in on. Watch what happens. So this is going to directly relate to the type of weather that we see this weekend in the upcoming work week. So we're going to get on a better display so you can see the whole thing. So check this out. As we go on through the day on Friday, and we get into Friday evening and overnight, Friday night into Saturday afternoon, look what happens to that trough. It cuts off. You see this big cutoff here? This is a sounding, folks. We're not looking at soundings today. This is a cutoff low. It looks like a bowling ball. Out ahead of these cutoffs, you get southerly flow and moisture coming up out of the Gulf and off the Atlantic. If this stays far enough to your west, you're going to see rain and showers out ahead of this just be sort of a persistent pattern. If this gets close to you or over you, you're going to see less in the way of that. There's a dry slot that will form in here, and this area will be dry near the low, and under the low it'll be unstable, cold, cloudy, maybe even some small little pop-up showers and thunderstorms if the temperature gets warm enough at the surface, and you could have some hail. But that's what's going on. And so the track of this, how this meanders around, will make the difference. Yesterday, the GFS had no idea that there was going to be a cutoff here. That model needs an update or an upgrade or overhaul or whatever you want to call it. But the European is certainly showing this. And this big, massive ridge, look at this building out here in the plains. So this is going to shut down the severe weather threat over all but maybe the southern part of Texas. And then we've got another trough swinging in. Now watch this as we go on out into Sunday afternoon. This thing is just sitting here, so probably eastern Carolinas, all up and down the eastern seaboard, is going to be unsettled this weekend, unfortunately. Another cutoff coming in here. So now we've got two cutoffs and a ridge over top. And we put this on out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Finally, we're starting to see Tuesday, this thing gets kicked up into the lakes and move on out. It'll drag a cold front through, another cutoff out here. There's a big ridge cutting off over. It's going to be warm up here, folks, up into southern Canada, northern U.S. if that takes place. And then as we get on out, look at cutoff. We got three cutoffs coming in here, folks. What in the world is going on? I'm going to show you that because this has implications to our pattern and our severe weather pattern. At the surface, you can see kind of what's going on as we get into the day Friday afternoon and evening. A lot of convection firing, so there's where our slight risk was. We're going to see an organized line of storms along that cold front Friday afternoon. And then we get into Saturday. There's that cutoff. It's actually got a low pressure at the surface. We've got showers along a cold front. Out ahead of that flow, we've got another system moving into the west coast. Clear as a bell out here in the upper plains, so you guys are going to have a nice, hot, warm weekend. But then that low just kind of meanders, and the southerly flow out ahead of it keeps the entire east coast unsettled as we go through the weekend. So that's your weekend forecast. The next one comes in and cuts off out here. But looking at kind of the pattern and what's driving all of this is we go in, is if we look back here, look at this. This is what we've been in. Trough in the east, or west, ridge in the east. This has been responsible for all this severe weather and rain out here. This is changing. Now watch what happens as we get on into later this weekend. Watch this. So we get this cutoff situation that we saw on the other map, but you can see kind of a big picture here. What does this look like to you? This looks like an omega block. Look at this. And you get sound effects here too. Doesn't that look like an omega? Kind of does. This ridge sits up here. It blocks everything. It slows the flow down. You get a messy, convoluted flow, cutoff after cutoff after cutoff. So as long as that ridging persists in Canada, we're going to see these cutoffs take place and just be slow to move around. And the trajectory of these things is going to vary from day to day, and it's going to influence the weather. And so we're going to see unsettled weather. Now we've got this big ridge over Canada trapping sort of a weak low here in the center of the country as we get way on out into time, and things kind of get convoluted and dragged down out of that. Looking at the total rainfall though over the next 2 weeks, the footprint, the GFS ensemble shows this too. So our big rainfall footprint extends from Texas up into the East Coast. Some of these areas out here have been really dry, so we can use that. As a matter of fact, here's the drought monitor. You see abnormally dry conditions to drought D-level 1, extreme drought down here in southern Texas, and lots of major drought across the Southwest. So really need to get some rainfall in some of these areas. It doesn't look like we're going to see copious rain, unfortunately, but the bulk of the rain is going to be from essentially Texas and the Midwest up through the East Coast. So that's what we're looking at there, folks. Temperature wise, as we go through the next couple of days, just to give you an idea, warm in the south, warm out west, warm along the south. This is for Friday. A little cooler up in the Midwest up toward the lakes. And then a similar pattern, but it starts to warm up as that ridge begins to really take shape. It's going to get really warm under that ridge in the plains, especially the upper portion of the plains, desert southwest, 80s, and getting pinched off. I'm doing it again. 80s getting pinched off down here. Just so you can see, this is Friday's temperature map, Saturday's temperature map. That warm sector gets a little bit pinched off, but it warms up out west. And then a similar map for Sunday. So as that upper low takes shape, we're going to see cooler, wetter, cloudier conditions here, unsettled weather along the East Coast. We're going to see cooler temperatures, warmth building in the plains, and cool out west with a new trough coming in. And folks, that is our weather forecast. Looking at the other things that we tend to look at, volcanic activity, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas that we've been watching, no change there. There was an earthquake in Utah. Did you feel that this morning? Some people did. It was a very minor quake, 3.9 on the Richter scale. Looks like there were some people that reported that across Independence, Utah. Solar activity, not a lot going on. There's a big blue, a big blue solar map here, but all I wanted to show you here, there's a sunspot activity. You can kind of see this moving in around the limb. That we'll continue to watch that. No big solar flaring off of that. Aurora tonight, will pick up in solar winds and density. You can see some aurora if it's clear up here on the northern tier. Not much doing tomorrow. And that's it, folks. And that brings us to the answer to today's IQ question. What is the question? What powers the sun? You know what powers the sun? Nuclear fission, matter-antimatter reactions, nuclear fusion, or quantum singularity. And the answer is nuclear fusion. We are actually trying to create fusion technology so that we can have sustainable, renewable energy that's cleaner than fission. But the problem is creating nuclear fusion up to this point takes more energy to create the reaction than the power that you get out of it. So once we solve that, we'll be able to have a brand new power source, and there are strides being made in that direction. So that's it, folks. That is the weather. Now you know about the sun and nuclear fusion. And of course, this is Cold Rain, as always, reminding you that if other stations run 24/7, we got you covered 48/14 right here at Cold Rain's Weather World. Take care, folks. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Keep a weather eye on the horizon.